Really, the history of Beargrass is remarkable in many ways. The churches that were in our founding, Beargrass Baptist, began here in 1784, which was at the close of the American Revolution. That was even prior to Kentucky statehood. The second church, Goose Creek Church of Christ, from which we were born, was founded in 1829. So remarkable length of our history going back to those roots. The second era of Beargrass really was what we might call the little country church, and that began with Beargrass Christian Church in 1842. We were 2 or 3 decades into the Stone Campbell movement at that point, and people from those 2 churches decided to move to that movement and came together at the home of Alfred Hare on Christmas Eve 1842, and that is the beginning service of Beargrass Christian Church.
Well, endowments are tools, and we need to see them that way. They're very powerful tools. They're ways for us to do a number of things. One is to simply say thank you to those places that have shaped us, that have brought meaning to our life. There are ways to say an affirmation that we want this to continue, that beyond our own life, this thing that has such great value to us needs to go on and extend beyond us.
For me, Beargrass has been the ongoing support since we talked about this morning, 1982? Mm-hmm. Since 1982, through the loss of my mother, my father, in the hospital. I mean, it's always been, it's been the important and the most thoughtful connection that I've had.
Probably initially, one of the biggest things for me was our involvement in the music ministry, whether it was children's choir. I remember dancing on these steps right here many years ago. My passion for handbells was nurtured in this place. I felt included here, and I wanted to make sure that all children feel included here as well. It was a safe place for me then. I want it to be a safe place for children now.
I think faith is a very easy word to say, and it's a very hard word to fully understand. I think it's something that does change and grow over time, but I guess what I can say is I think Beargrass makes it easy for you to develop your faith, because there just aren't any restrictions out there that says you have to do this in a certain way in order to do it the right way. And I like that. I think it just makes it so easy for us to try to become better people without having to say, I've got to follow these 10 rules.
20th century, there was a fairly courageous move made by the membership, which was in a minority, to move the original Beargrass Christian Church, which had been at the corner of Thurman Lane and Westport Road, to this location here at Browns Lane and Shelbyville Road. And that happened in 1917 when the new church was erected here. The third era of Beargrass Christian really begins with the coming and the recruitment of Reverend Walter Lawrenson in 1931. He grew the church in a number of ways, but he was followed 20 years later, 1953, by the recruitment of Reverend Will Van Nostrand. And so those 2 men really are giants in the history of Beargrass, particularly over the last 2/3 of the 20th century.
If this is important in your life, if your community of faith is important to your life, imagine what that can be, what it was for the people that came before us. We are benefactors of all of their gifts and their talents and what they have left for us, so that this place exists the way it does and functions the way it does pretty effectively, I think, in our community. And we have the opportunity to do that for future generations.
on it, I thought, well, why not necessarily do something where you can make that contribution that has the opportunity to be out there forever. And I think making a legacy gift to me just makes a lot of sense, because now when I'm not here to be a part of the church from a day-to-day active standpoint, I can still make a contribution and let the next round of leaders take those funds and use them to keep this church going. It just seemed to me a logical extension of what we've been doing with our resources over the past 30 years.
Why? I've had many positive, wonderful memories here, and I want that to continue long after I am gone.
One of the statements I found, it said that giving like living is a matter of faith. And I think that's sort of guided, what we wanted to do. It's pleasing to us to see Beargrass actually planning for the future. Not only, next year, 2 years, 3 years from now, but also thinking about what this church in this community can be in 2030 or 2040.
It's about a conscious decision we've made that this matters, and we're going to support it even after we're gone. And who knows what cool things people will decide to do with whatever it is we have left that we've given to the church. Who knows what kind of interesting, bizarre, crazy, awesome ministry might be launched with some of the seed money that we as Beargrass in this generation have left for the next.
What we're doing now, we weren't doing 30 years ago. I don't want people to stress, what we're doing now probably won't be what we're doing in 30 years. We don't know exactly where God is going to guide us. But if we have the resources available, we can answer as the Spirit calls.
And I think we're called to do that. We're called to be disciples now and to make disciples. And we can do that beyond our years on earth by supporting the endowment to make sure that it continues and that more disciples are made. And how lucky are we?